Here we are, right back where we left off on my Windows PC laptop. I have here a folder on my desktop called, I click on it once, MIS 2402 Workspace. And before I go any further, let me just say that you may have chosen to call that folder Workspace or MIS 2402 Workspace. Either are fine. But what I want you to see is that there are no spaces in that folder name. There's no dashes, no punctuation. All the letters in the words MIS and Workspace are all lowercase. And I make a big point out of that because when you choose to name things with a mixture of case and extra punctuation and extra spaces, you actually create the potential for more confusion and problems later on. So I'm telling you this as someone who wants you to become a programmer. This is a tip for future programmers. Keep your file and folder names simple. All right. Okay, enough about that. I'm going to double click here and I can see that I have hello.html and hello.txt. These are the two files I created previously. And if I were to double click on hello.html, I can see that that's opening up in Microsoft Edge, which is the default browser on this laptop. So I'm going to change that to Chrome, and but Edge is a perfectly good browser. If I right mouse click here, I have View Page Source. That's good. I'm just going to change it to Chrome so it's consistent. That's consistent with what I'm doing on the Mac side and everywhere else. But notice what Chrome does. It takes the contents of hello.html, which was just text, and interprets it as a web page with a title and an H1 tag and a paragraph. That's what browsers do. All right, I'm going to change the default browser to Chrome. I'm not going to actually install Chrome. I assume that you're able to do that, and if you're not, you can go look that up on your own. But let me quickly change the browser. I can do that by going down to the search option in my toolbar, and I can type in change default. Oh, there it is. It's the first thing, best match, default apps. Click there. And we have apps, and it says set a default for a file type or a link type. So if I type in .html in that space, and search, you can see that my default application is currently Microsoft Edge. I'm going to click on that, and it says before you switch, are you sure you don't want to do it the Microsoft way? I'm going to switch anyway. This is one of the things that Microsoft and other big tech folks like to do. They always want to steer you towards their stuff. I'm going to choose Chrome. I'm going to say set that as the default, and I'm going to close this box. Now, when I double click on hello.html, it's going to open this up as hello world. I'm going to actually hit this set as default here. Looks like yep, Chrome is my default browser now. Good. Great. So there we go. I changed Chrome to be my default browser. The big thing is that when I double click on this HTML file, it opens up in Chrome. All right, now that I've done that tricky bit, I'm going to install Visual Studio Code on this laptop, and we're going to see what I can do with that. Visual Studio Code is our IDE, Integrated Development Environment. So I will open up a browser and get to the Google search page. I'm going to type in download Visual Studio Code, enter. And there is the very first link. Notice it's https://code.visualstudio.com. This gets translated as a / download. That's the one I want. It's the very first response to that query. There's that URL again. I'm going to just make this page just a little bit smaller so you can see it better. We have several buttons here. We have Windows, 2 buttons for Linux and Mac. I'm going to click the blue button for Windows. The download begins. You can see the download progress taking place here in the upper right-hand corner. You want to wait until that's all done. And now that that is done, we can look at it in our folder, and I can double-click here on this executable file. Right about now, you can be thankful that you're not on a Mac, because on the Mac, you have to do an extra step. Just saying that to affirm your decision to use a Windows PC. I'm going to accept the agreement and choose next. And this is where it's going to install everything. That's fine. That's fine. And I do like to create a desktop icon. I'm funny like that. Seriously, do that so that you can always find Visual Studio Code. And I don't want any student to show up to class when we do meet in person and say, oh, I installed everything, but I just can't find Visual Studio Code anywhere on my computer. So let's avoid all that and leave all the other defaults. Next, install. Here we go. It goes pretty quick. All right. So it says it's done. I'm going to close this window. And it says I want to finish, and I'm going to launch Visual Studio Code. Before I do that, I'm going to close the browser that's in the background here. So I'm just kind of getting it down to just one thing in front of me, and I'm getting ready to launch Visual Studio Code. And when I do this, Visual Studio Code is going to want to ask me to do some setup, most of which I don't need to do. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to click Finish. And you can see that it's giving me the option to set my theme, choose color themes and other nice things. I don't intend to spend any time on that. So I'm just going to resize this window just a little bit so you can see better. And I'm going to click X off of that welcome message. And I am going to open a folder that holds all of my work. Can you guess what folder that is? And if you guessed the MIS 2402 workspace, you're guessing right. Good job. So I'm going to go up to this three-bar menu at the top, click File, Open Folder. Or if I had the window maximized, you would see File, Open Folder. Same thing. I'm going to navigate through folders that are inside of other folders. Here's my desktop. Here's my workspace. I'm going to select the folder, and inside the folder, I have my 2 files. Now, Visual Studio Code wants to know if you trust the contents of this folder. Stop and think about that for a second. You made these files. They're on your desktop. Yes, you trust the author because you're the author. So yes, I trust the authors, and I don't care to do anything more with this welcome message. So I'm going to click X here, and now I'm in a place where I can edit the contents of the MIS 2402 workspace folder. So if I were to click on hello.html, there I would see the tags that are used to create or present that web page in a browser. And you can, by going up to View, you can modify the appearance of this, or if you in making the text bigger. I always like to zoom in on the text. That's what I was talking about here. View, I like to zoom in on the text. I know the keystroke for it, it's Control-Shift+, and that zooms in, and I do that a lot so that when I record these videos, you can see what it is I'm typing. Control Shift minus. Click over here, try it again. Makes it smaller and bigger. You don't necessarily need to know that, memorize that keystroke. I'm just saying that's what I do. But before I go any further, I want to add one thing to my installation of Visual Studio Code. I would like to add what's called an extension. Over here on the left, I have a menu bar here, and there's this icon with several building blocks. I'm going to click on extensions, and I'm going to go up to the search box, and I'm going to type in open in browser. So I want that first extension. It's called Open in Browser. The author is TechER. I'm going to click the blue install button, and you can see that it's installed that quickly. All right, I can close this. I can go back to my File Explorer and open hello.html here with a double click. And I'm going to click over here in hello.html as if I was going to edit that file. Because I've installed the Open in Browser extension, I can now right mouse click here and I have a menu option that wasn't there before. This is called Open in Default Browser. I can click on that and it wants to know which one do you want to use. I want to use Chrome and always, and then it will stop asking me. Let me open in Default Browser. There it is. I opened my page in my default browser. So anytime I make an edit, I can do a quick preview and see what it looks like. And here's a hot tip for any student of mine in the in-person class. I can always tell when a student hasn't followed along with the videos if they come into class and they say, "Oh, professor, I'm following along, but I don't have this open in default browser option." Well, how do I get that? Well, I just went through the process, right? It's click on extensions, type in open in browser, hit the install button, and you're off and running. You only have to do that once. Okay, and it's kind of a tell. I can always tell when a student hasn't followed along when I see that. All right, we're almost done. Almost done, and I want to do just one quick little thing here. I can go over here to hello.html. I'm going to right mouse click and choose copy, and then I'm going to click down here in the file space, and I'm going to right mouse click and choose paste, and I get a copy of hello.html. It says hello copy. I want to rename that. So I'm going to right mouse click that, choose rename, and call it work. So in work, I can now, I'm going to double click on work. I'm going to edit some tags in here. So I just closed out of everything. Here we go. I only have one file open right now, and I'm going to change the title to be learn some new tags. And I'm going to change the H1 tag content to be learn some new tags. And I'm going to click File and Save. Then I can open in default browser and I can see that my title and my H1 content area, learn some new tags, has changed. And that's about it. There is one more thing though. This is special for Windows PC users. This folder here, this folder, MIS2402 Workspace, this one right here, is on my desktop. And I'm going to look at the properties of that, and I'm going to observe the location is C, users, student, desktop. This is for a laptop desktop that is not connected to OneDrive. Temple University students have the option of using OneDrive. So if you right mouse click on your desktop folder and you look at the properties of the folder, and the location is C:users, and then your login information, and then it says /OneDrive, and then underneath OneDrive, it'll extend farther off the page. It'll say desktop. Just be aware that thanks to Microsoft, your laptop now has 2 desktop folders. And if you think that's kind of irritating and frustrating, I agree with you. You have to be aware of which desktop you're working on. Are you working on your OneDrive desktop, or are you working on your local hard disk's desktop, the one that's not synchronized with the cloud? And that's something that was introduced here over the last year or so, and it is a point of confusion. So if you're a Microsoft user, you want to right mouse click here, choose properties, and you're going to have to, it's one of these things, unfortunately, you'll have to remember whether you're working off of your desktop or are you working off of your OneDrive desktop. All right, that's a good place to stop. See you in the next video.